Welcome to the Big Sci-Fi Podcast, part of the Trek Geeks Network. We are back again with our in-between season content. Right now, that means we are in between seasons 5 and 6 of the Big Sci-Fi Podcast. And similar to what we did during the last in-between season, we chose to write some of our own fiction. Before we get into that, make sure that you like and follow us here on YouTube or your favorite social media channel. Now, we did the same thing as we did last time. We each contributed an element, and all of us had to incorporate all 4 of those elements into a flash fiction story. We decided to limit ourselves to a flash fiction story that is less than 1,000 words. We all wrote our own, and none of us have heard each other's stories until we read them today. So the elements that we came up with to use are opening day, sticker, corvette, and self-sealing stem bolt. That would have been kind of cool.
Those tricky little buggers.
I know.
I had to look that up on, just to make sure that I was right. It is
self-sealing stem bolt.
Yep.
And for those of you listening that aren't deep Trekkies or deep Star Trek Deep Space Nine fans, that's where it came from. It's an object, just so folks know what it is. It is a fictional object from Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
And even Corvettes that is just real? A joke.
Wow. Okay.
In the series.
Okay, well, we're going to get started with the first story that's going to be read by my co-host, Cris here. Cris, are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Take it away.
So this story is called The Prevention Prerogative. And this is a short story that I'm using or basing it off of a pilot I'm trying to write for film school. So we'll see how it goes. But this is called The Prevention Prerogative. Friday, April 12th, 2024, 11 a.m. Detective Christopher Cavall was hunched over a body lying on the bank floor. Cavall was a slim man in his late 40s, bald, with a graying beard. The victim was a 12-year-old girl dressed in pink and was clutching an iPad covered in stickers. Her father was nearby and couldn't bring himself to look at her. Even after 15 years on the job, it still got to him. All Cavall could do now was get to work. According to the officer first on the scene, one of the perps got panicked after a civilian got a little mouthy and fired his gun. Clearly, the bullet wasn't meant for her. Deep in thought, Cavall was brought back to the here and now by a familiar voice. "You all right?" asked Detective Erica Cartwright. Cartwright was a tall, slender woman with dark hair, about the same age as Cavall. Cartwright and Cavall had been partners going on a decade. "Yeah, I'm fine. It's just never easy, especially when we have victims this young. Don't worry. It'll get better. We just need to figure out what the heck happened and when." "All right. So what do we know?" asked Cavall, trying to focus on the facts. "Well, it was a small team of 3 bank robbers. 2 were masked, and the third got hired a month ago as a security guard. Despite our sole victim here, it was a very successful job. They got away with 150 million and are in the win. Dollars? No. Self-sealing stem bolts. Yes, dollars." Cavall glared at Cartwright for the comment. "Sorry, Cris, just trying to lighten the mood." "Thanks, but what do you say we get back to solving this case?" "Any of the license plates come back?" asked Cavall. "Most of them came back to customers and staff. Well, except for that fancy Corvette outside. Plates came back, but it was stolen." "Well, that's awfully smart, using a stolen car to robbery," commented Cavall somewhat sarcastically. "Actually, it was pretty smart, responded Cartwright. "We tracked the owner down, but he's clean. No priors, no financial difficulties, not even a speeding ticket. I guess they figured worst case scenario we'd go barking up the wrong tree." "Detectives, I have something," said a voice excitedly. It was the officer who had briefed them earlier. "What do you got for us, officer?" "What of the witnesses got the robbery on video?" The 2 watched as the officer played the video on the phone. It showed what appeared to be the perp that panicked. Before things went bad, the perp opened up his mask to scratch his mouth. Well, look at that. Our young guy broke the first rule of robbing a bank: never reveal your face. We should be able to get a positive ID off of this. Officer, send us back to base and have them run through facial rec have them run through facial rec forthwith. Yes, sir, the officer eagerly replied. With that, the officer hurried away. Let's do some more canvassing and check out the cameras. Saturday, April 14th, 2 p.m. Cavell and Cartwright were sitting around in a crowded room. There was massive monitors before them, radio chatter, and of course the usual whispers that one would expect in the command center. After almost 3 days of investigation, Cavell had all the information he needed. The ever-present chatter came to an abrupt end as people suddenly stood at attention as Captain Lantry entered the room. At ease, ordered Lantry in her usual calm but stern manner. All right, as everyone knows, we were able to identify the young nervous shooter, 15-year-old Marcus Knight. No priors, no brushes with the law. We were able to identify the others as members of the 47 founders. They held Marcus hostage and forced him to participate. Sorry, correction. They held Marcus's mother hostage and forced him to participate. Detective Cavell and Cartwright, is your team ready? Yes, Captain, they are. Good. You have a go. Good luck. Cavell and Cartwright, along with the 5 other officers, headed towards a massive chamber with 7 seats, with straps and wires going every which way. Cavell took a deep breath and strapped himself in. No matter how many times he did this, he couldn't get used to his consciousness being temporarily displaced. But he had to endure this as it was his duty, and the end result was always worth it. Locked in, all systems green, he began shaking violently until suddenly he lost consciousness. April 12th, 9 a.m. The grand opening of the bank was underway, and all that could be heard was excited chatter among its very excited group of customers. Sarah was excited to be there with her dad. She didn't much care about banks, but she loved being with her dad, and she always loved free food and free stickers for her iPad. After being in line for a few minutes, a group of men put on their ski masks, pulled out guns, and got their weapons out. Pulled out their weapons and yelled, "Everybody on the ground, no talking." After some panic, everyone dropped to the ground and put their hands behind their back. But as quickly as they got to the ground, the sound of glass breaking could be heard as Cavell and his team broke through the windows. After a brief skirmish, 2 of the perps were cuffed and secured. Only Marcus remained. His breath was shaky as he pointed his gun at the officers. "Drop your weapons, Marcus. Drop it before anyone gets hurt." "I can't," yelled Marcus. "They have my mother." "Marcus, your mother's safe. The 47 founders can't hurt her. Just drop your weapon and let's talk about it." Marcus dropped the weapon and began sobbing. "I have to cuff you, Marcus, but you'll be okay. I'll put in a good word with the judge so that you won't have to serve any jail time. You'll be all right." Cavell cuffed him and led him back to the car. With Cartwright securing the scene, he could finally breathe again, knowing that Marcus was safe and 12-year-old Sarah was alive and well. And that's
Very
it.
good.
Cool.
That was an adventure.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And you're making that
Yeah.
into a short film, you said?
Well, so we have to, for our class, we have to do, so for the class coming up, which actually starts next week, we have to basically write a TV pilot and pitch what we would want our TV series to be about. So this I'm pitching as like a police procedural where it's like the usual, okay, there's the crime that happens, they solve the crime, but then they're able to go back in time and prevent it from happening. And I couldn't get into it in the story because it's so short. But ideally, like the way I picture it is the time travel is not like them physically traveling, but that their consciousness is transported into like a previous version of themselves. Kind of the way I was thinking about it was the way, if you guys have seen X-Men Days of Future Past, the way Professor X is able to transfer Wolverine's consciousness from the future into his past body. So that way you're not having to worry about doubles showing up and like having so many versions of the same character appearing as they try and take out this gang called the 47 Founders, which is terrorizing Toronto. in this
There-
Is
story.
this a real group?
No, this is a gang I made up.
Is
Oh,
there a
it's
reason
good.
that you chose 47? Wink, wink.
No, definitely not because of Star Trek. I definitely didn't choose the word founders because of the founders from DS9. Absolutely not why I chose it.
Okay. Just checking.
Okay.
Cool. Well, thank you,
Very
Chris.
cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much.
And thank you, listeners. We hope you enjoyed that. Feel free to comment here and let us know what you think. And then join us for our next flash fiction story here on the Big Sci-Fi Podcast.